Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. Thank Mike for being there and sharing with me what your goals and objectives were for today. And I also want to pay tribute and acknowledge not only you, Linda, as the administrator, but our governors, our past district governor, and all of those who have dedicated an immense amount of time in being present and continuing to ensure that we move forward in Rotary. Janet and Marcia and Larry and Bruce, Mike, Linda, and all other individuals on the call today. We thank you, Deborah and Dave and Wendy and Nancy. I want to make sure that you all know how special it is to not only have you present, Janet and Jennifer. It is to me a value to see the time that we as volunteers give back to something we love that does so much from the standpoint of humanitarian service. And so I want you to just take one moment to pat yourselves on the back for giving of your time and your attention to not only the values of Rotary, but your values and your commitment to District 5610. So again, thank you. I am Demetress Harrell, and I have to tell you something very special about me today. I have been married for 38 years to a gentleman whose name is Demetrius. So if you ever are around me and you wonder why she continues to say, well, Demetrius said, and you don't think to note that I am married to another D, you would know that I'm not being conceited and thinking of talking of myself in third person. It is my great mate, my best friend, and the man who allows me to do so many things around the world of Rotary and will be traveling with me for the very first time to Chicago on Saturday so that we can go to the summit next week and see One Rotary Center. So again, congratulations on your work and this new year. I am going to take a moment to share and pull up my screen because I think it is important that you all see what we have in store for today. So again, welcome 5610, Rotarians, Rotaract, and guests, because we know we're going to have listeners, and we are grateful that we have all of this new technology that we can record today's presentation. Mike and I had a chance to talk about where we were in Rotary and some of the goals and objectives that you all have. And so I hope along the way you feel free to ask questions, and I will hold a moment of time at the end of the presentation so that you can ask those questions. But along the way, if you have anything that you want to say, place it in the chat. And I know that our administrator will be providing us guidance and bringing those to my attention. I first want to tell you that I have been a Rotarian since 1998. I am past district governor during the year 22-23, the year of the Jennifer, I always say, the first woman in Rotary for holding that position. I also had during my district governor year, the first woman in Rotary that we all know, Dr. Sylvia Whitlock, come to my district conference. But today we're going to talk a little bit about Let's Grow Rotary because this is the month that we are to put forth all initiatives so that we finish strong at the end of our year. My current role is Rotary Membership Coordinator. I am in my second year in this role, and I have been an assistant Rotary Coordinator. And the focus now is that we have placed and emphasized the word membership. So it is Rotary Membership Coordinator. For many years, it was just Rotary Coordinator. I think that that has a great distinction. It helps us to understand the value and the impact that we will make together to membership. We could not have Rotary if we do not have members. So we're going to talk about leadership development to grow membership. And also, we are going to put emphasis on all of the other aspects that center around that area. I hope this is giving you a good display. We know that our Rotary International President, President Jinka, has not only sat at the table with our nominee at the time, now elect Larry, and they have put a strategy together to ensure that we grow in 2030. And President-elect Larry has said, as what we see on Bruce's screen, that in 2030, we will have 1.25 Rotarians, million at that, and 125,000 Rotaractors. Now, I believe that that is very attainable because for years we have said we have 1.2 million Rotarians in Rotary. But the problem has been is we've seen the continuous decline and we've not been able to handle that attrition, nor have we found ways in which we can hold by retaining, sustaining, and maintaining where clubs are when we finish at the end of the year. We find ourselves growing throughout the year of bringing in new members, and we set ourselves those nominal goals that we will grow by 1 or 2 members per club. But what we do is at the end of the year, we begin to clean our roster so that that new governor comes in fresh, that new membership chair, if we're making a change in our district, and therefore we have not gained enough to sustain at the end. And so we're going to talk just briefly about that. I put this picture in because together we connect. I believe that that has been the strongest part of my Rotary legacy is connecting with people around the world that have common interests and a desire to network. Not network in building my business, but partnering that if I want to connect someone across the globe in any profession that really does come back to network, I feel strong to do it. When I hear someone saying, I'm going to visit Spain, I say, I know someone there. It happens to be a Rotarian. If I hear someone say, I'm going to Africa, I say, I know someone there. If I see someone that is in our USA, in our country, I can say that many cities, many states, I know someone there. And it has only been through the connection that I have made in Rotary that has made that possible. I love this picture because this year, for my second term, I was a facilitator at Rotary International Assembly. The reason why this was such a profound impact on my life is because during the year of Jennifer Jones, we did not get to go to assembly because we had this little thing called COVID. It was something big. But what was most necessary is that we still needed to connect with our class. And we did eventually get to do that. But this was instrumental to see 3 presidents, one that was incoming, one that would be present in a few years, and one that was current, sit at the table, collaborate, and connect on strategies to make us stronger. And so that is a very prolific picture. But today we're going to take a journey down the membership road. So let's roll together as we connect, cultivate, communicate, and you will have time to call on your coordinator. We know that this month is membership month. You might ask the question, why is it that we start out our year with membership? Well, because there is something very important there. One, we all make up this thing called Rotary through our membership. We look at our values, we look at our impact, we look at the ways that we expand. And yes, we will talk about the Rotary vision, but we will also talk about the action plan. And today, we are talking about membership. August is designated to membership. It is important that we realize that we should set our goals early. So already District 5610 has goals. And one of those goals is how many members do we anticipate attracting and having to convert, whether they start out as prospective or invitations just sitting at the table. At the end of the year, we want to ensure that those individuals are now calling themselves Rotarians. In many clubs, you all may remember the red badge, or you had some type of orientation and onboarding. I will talk about that because I think it is important that when we join Rotary, we want people there for life. We do not want this to be just a momentary or just a sedentary, nor do we want it to be just an invitation for the moment. We want this to be a lifetime commitment. And we believe that we can attract those type of members and give them the experience that will make Rotary last for a lifetime. One of those key essentials is it starts with understanding your membership. Impact starts with our members, people like you who see a world where people unite. Well, you know we have a mission and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. But when we think about that mission statement, how many of us have a personal mission statement that really centers around that key element at our clubs, in our communities across the globe? If that is the key concept of how we connect, then we need to look like our communities. And we need to build that type club so that everyone feels that they can participate. Now, when you think about something that Mike and I said earlier in our conversation about this presentation, we talked about things like, hey, remember the classifications? Well, I believe that they are still important for us to now acknowledge. How many of you have looked from your A to Z, like Director Tom Gump has said, and determined what professions do we not have in the room? I say oftentimes people talk about sitting at the table, but let's just get them in the room. And then they get the option of what they do once they get there. But we need to think about club meetings of being about our communities. Today, I spoke at the United Way because we are seeking funds as a nonprofit. And when we went there, our financial director said to me, man, I didn't know it was going to be so many people in the room. And I said, yes, there is representation from across our community sitting in that room. I left there and I immediately thought, you know, if that is the type of individuals that are in the room, I need to make sure they are in the Rotary room as well. And so we have to think about how we can make a connection to improve lives by committing that we will build our friendships and have better relationships through our neighbors and through our colleagues. And there are ways in which we can do that. But I want to ask you the question, and I want you to put in the chat, what year have you sponsored a new member? Tell me if you have sponsored a new member and just list that in the chat. And it's okay if you have not, but it's even greater because we have an opportunity to expand our reach just in that. Look at our Rotary Action Plan. Now, here I am looking at a picture that I took because I had an opportunity to do an installation of a potential member, but the installation of a governor who is taking the gavel this year. And I talked a little bit about the action plan. Rotary membership growth is a design, it's not a mystery. And while we might assume that you see only pictures on the screen, you might also see an email address of a business colleague, someone that you have right now in your inbox that is not a part of Rotary. think about how we can grow by just the resources we have at our fingertips. Invite and welcome them. Engage and retain them. Tell your story to them and lead and innovate them. You see, we have been holding on to one of the greatest secrets in the world, and that is Rotary. It is not a mystery, but yet we have tucked it in and under our sleeve as though it was. Growth is not luck. Decline is not faith. Change the design and change the results. So if your design is not cultivating change in your club, you will see rapid decline. But let's look at the action plan for just a moment. The Rotary Membership Action Plan is designed as a map. It is structured in a framework that can be a way in which we grow, engage, and retain members. We see the words increase impact. Every single one of us know every single day we make an impact in our personal lives, our professional lives, in our homes, in our communities, and on our jobs. One of the greatest impacts that Rotary has made is around eradicating polio. We continue to say that we are this close to reaching a cure. Well, the reality is, as long as we have people, we're going to have disease. But the possibility is the more Rotarians we have, the milestones we can cultivate in eliminating those. And I believe we will do it with polio, but we have to consider that we need to grow, we need to give, and we must generate change. Number 2 in that action plan is expand our reach. You know, I think about how far my arms could expand. Could I touch someone else outside of my immediate circle? Well, that's how we grow Rotary, is we look at the diversity. And when I talked earlier about classifications, I meant it. Do you have in your club a funeral home director, a mortician? Do you have in your club a school superintendent, a president of the college? Do you have a physician, a teacher? What channels can we create to ensure we dial in to those people that are not a part of this great, big, beautiful family? We want to build awareness, and we have to do that through that word generate. Generations we have seen change in how we share information. How many of you all remember the rotary dial phone? Huh? Yes, it seems like it was a long time ago, but yet I remember the party line. You would pick up, someone was on the other line, and you could hear their entire conversation, like my little Aunt Lee down the street. And I would sometimes say, hey, we need to use the phone. You're on it too long. Well, we have changed. We have new channels, and now we have a private line. It's at our fingertips, and it is really an encyclopedia. I want you to take just a moment to think about how many contacts you have in your phones. If you want to even take a second to look and see how many contacts you have in this little device. Well, I have about 9,000 contacts. That seems unreal, but I do. Because we have social media on there, and you usually have 2,000 to 3,000 contacts. If you have LinkedIn on there, you have another 1,000 plus contacts. Just the contacts that you have, phone numbers, and I have in healthcare lots of physicians across the nation, as well as all other healthcare professionals. But that's building awareness. And so we must grant ourselves the opportunity to share our story. We have to make posts that people feel are meaningful. You know, it's one thing to show the check that we gave in the contribution, but it's another thing to show what the check supported. So let's enhance participant engagement. Support clubs, and better define ways that we can deliver value. When people are paying for something, they want to know that they're getting a return on their investment. Let them know how this can add to their resume. Let them know how this changes lives, and let them know how much we appreciate through recognition of their time and efforts. Increase the ability to adapt. That's building a culture to reach through innovation, in making sure that we are sustaining the members that we have, streamlining governance. People don't like to have lots of rules if they don't know the whys. And so let's foster a more diverse perspective in decisions that we are making as to why we're seeing the growth and increase in member dues. It is going for something. Let them know what the value is and show them how that money makes a difference. 5 strategies to help you grow membership. Recruitment and member value. Clarify what Rotary does locally and the visibility of the wins, the impact that we make through our volunteer service. Share clear reasons why it is important for you to join today. Programming that people hear messages of why they would want to attend that program. Because so oftentimes people don't show up because they don't know what that program is. Make sure that we let them know who it is and what they are going to be talking about. Creating a calendar so that people can mark and be certain that they are where they are supposed to be and when. Social service career opportunities. One of the greatest new initiatives is development. How can this enhance my professional growth? Service projects, let's make those measurable outcomes. One of the questions that Mike also talked about is, what does Rotary International do with all that data? They make us put so much in as governors. They want us to put in as Rotarian chairs, and not to mention the amount of obligations that are on the president. Those are community needs that are deeply setting targets. But Rotary is looking at how we can see the value. And so we're going to talk about that in just a moment, of how we are using things like data. We also know that volunteer hours count. Members are helped, families are served, and dollars are generated. Youth and community pipelines. One of the things I said I loved about one of those early pictures is seeing the 3 presidents, the presidential line. But I also had a picture of me at RILA. And I think it's important that we give so much time and attention to our youth. And strengthening our Rotary youth programs is how we develop new Rotarians for the future. Whether they go from Interact to Rotaract to Rotary, we want to retain those that we have invested in. So retention through leadership and culture is necessary. I also want you to know that my team is always available to help you in strategies to grow, to gain, and to generate opportunities. We grow and we are able to gain more visibility. We are also able to generate captions of all of the work that we do, and then we're able to give back to Rotary International. Rotary membership is about every district, every club, and every member supporting growth initiatives. It takes us all. We all must work together to attract others to Rotary. And that's how we expand our reach, and we're able to serve and support globally. Leadership for that effort is provided even at your zone level. So we have Rotary coordinators, team members, and that is our assistant Rotary coordinators, and that is assistant Rotary membership coordinators that are responsible for supporting membership and all the districts. And we want to make sure that they know where the resources are. Innovative club advocates, membership, and also advisors. And one of the things we do is a monthly webinar. And this month, because it's membership month, we want you to tune in because we are doing a Membership Master Vault series every single week. And this next week will be about polio. Here's just a few resources. District resources are always through your team, and making sure you have a public image chair, a membership chair, a foundation chair, and making sure your clubs have the same. We also look at reports. Yes, we are collecting data at the member level, district level, club level, but also Rotary International has it at their level. And so one of the things that we see is we change zones when we see a decline in membership. We also see that a lot of that data is how we compare districts, compare clubs, and it also becomes a resource in the Learning Center. The Learning Center is a place where we can develop our club members by giving them all that they need to know about their respective positions. So lean into the Learning Center and see how you can grow too. There are classes that Bruce and I had to take before we could become district governors right there in the Learning Center. For me as a facilitator at International Assembly, I had to go to the Learning Center. So again, if it is necessary for us as leaders, we need to give some of those tools and resources to our members and let them know that there too is a place where information is connected and they can also get a certificate for collection. Zone roadmaps. We use the Rotary Zone membership to have a roadmap, and there is one for public image as well as foundation to help you provide initiatives in not only growing membership, but how diverse your committee should be. You need to always know that it is important to have a few key elements. One, a district membership chair, someone who is going to be looking at all the clubs in your district and determining their health, how viable they are, how visible they are, and how vital they are to the community. And also developing a membership plan. You must have a plan in your district to determine how and where you need to go. Here's another area of emphasis. How do you involve public image, foundation, and membership in the success of your sustainability? Well, we at the zone level, Patrick, myself, and Sharon work closely. We bring our teams together on a quarterly basis. We talk and ask, how can we help one another and how can we ensure that we are working for the people, working for the clubs, working for the members, and ensuring that we are available to the districts. I hope that I am participating in your pets or pals so that I can be present in the room and teaching and guiding the way. So how do we change club culture? Because there are a lot of clubs out there that say oftentimes, oh, we don't need to grow. We want to stay just where we are. We don't need anyone else. Well, how much are they giving back to the foundation? Let them know that the strength comes not only just in numbers, but in action. And if they have a strong club with the 25 that they have, and they feel that that is substantial, because I have one of those clubs in my district, then that's great. But if there is other people in the community wanting to participate in a club and that club is not open, let's start a new one. Club practices. Looking at club flexibility, and then let's go immediately this month. It's Rotary Membership Month to those struggling clubs. When we finish and we saw that that club lost 10 members at the end of the year, that they may have been holding on, that hadn't paid their dues throughout the year, let's go to that club president. Let them know you are not alone. We are here to help you, and let's look at a plan to strengthen your club, building personal connections so that we have a lasting impact. Why it matters is because membership growth is about identifying potential members, attracting members, onboarding members, engaging and retaining members. But who is sometimes missing in the room? It might be seniors, retirees, and not to mention women in Rotary. Four strategic, priorities that we need to look at when we look at the strategies. The strategic priorities are increase, again, our impact. We are going to talk about the measurable goals. You heard it earlier. Expand your reach, enhance that participant engagement, and adapt to the changing times. This is key because we are changing. Remember when your club was founded on all of those businesses that were sending people to the club and they were paying for their membership? Well, today, that's not happening at a lot of industries, a lot of businesses, even private entrepreneurs. We have to look at ways in which we can adapt to the change in time. If there is a decline in members, we have to determine what type of innovation we can create, even through technology like hybrid, new ways of working to make ourselves stay relevant. Rotary has a message, and it is never too late to share your stories. So, expanding our vision starts with retaining members and making sure that we keep hold to who they are and where they are, sustaining, support, and empower those who desire to be present but have never been asked to participate on any committee, any service project, or even where they are when they're missing in action. Maintaining means to service, to repair, and to care for our members. It's nothing like when one goes home with an award. And let's continue to examine our success stories. We also have to look at membership from a perspective of what can we do differently to not only grow our membership, but to make the members that we have feel valued. So oftentimes we're so focused on getting new people in, but what about the ones that have been there for a lifetime? Let's always make sure that we're pouring into their cup and filling their glass. If I say I've been in Rotary since 1998, it should not be that hard to know that I too need someone to show my value. Recently, I was at my club and we were inducting a couple of new members. And we told them that they needed to have a club runner account. And so I listened to it and I said, yes. I said, but they need to have a My Rotary account. And they said, oh no, they get that whenever we join. They automatically have a My Rotary account. I said, they have a membership number, but you have to go into Rotary International and set up your My Rotary account. So have you ever looked and seen how many members you have across your district that does not have a My Rotary account? And if they don't have full access to the Learning Center. They don't have access to the Brandon Center, and they don't have access in their profile to see how much they have given to Rotary International. We want people to be connected, and we want to give them the resources that are at their fingertips that they didn't know they had access to. And so when I said that, I thought, well, first of all, for someone who's been in the Rotary Club for this length of time, you must know that they are a resource. But if you never ask them, then they can never share their knowledge. Data collections. Another question was, what do we do with all this data? Where does it go and how can it be used? Well, when we go to things like the Global Summit, when we go to International Assembly, that's information that is being used to determine how we can further develop and channel the information to grow and gain access for all of our new incoming governors. The same applies when you are at PETS or PALS. And yes, we still call ours Lone Star PETS. Club is by design, but it's also a by decline. If you see a club that is leaning to the left and not growing to the right, then we would say there are caution signs. It's a green, that's a go light. They're doing well. If they are in the yellow, then we know we have to be cautioned that they are declining. But when they're in the red, there's a substantial cost that might mean that they will no longer be a club. And one of the things I always say is if you can in your district maintain the club number and not allow that club to disintegrate. One of the things we saw in our district is we just started another club, changed the name, changed the leadership, and boy, did vitality occur. We went from having 3 members in a club to having 43 members in a club just because we saw that it was no longer looking like the community and we wanted to expand. We also have to foster innovation, new ways to share our story, making sure that people recognize, just like with the Rotary wheel, we put the word Rotary so that people would understand that the wheel did not stand alone. Where do we go from here? Well, we go with you acknowledging that the 4-way test has always been about friendships and it will build goodwill. So I say tonight, thank you all so very much for your time and your attention. These are our 10 assistant Rotary coordinators. This is my contact QR code, and this is my story. I love Rotary because I love you. And I thank you tonight for allowing me to have this moment. And for those that will listen and hear this afterwards, continue to grow, continue to give, and we will generate a consensus of Rotary around the world. Thank you so very much. Questions?
Wow. Thank you so much.
You, Lynn.
I'm going to open the floor up. Please get off mute. And if anyone would like to add some questions, we have about 6 minutes, but we can expand it if anyone wants to stay on longer. Bruce, I'm going to open the floor up to you first.
What if I don't have any questions?
Well, I want to say to Bruce, I'm so glad that he has on our 125th anniversary that we have to be able to see and meet this goal. Larry has challenged us that by that time we will have 1.2 million, 25 million Rotarians and 125 Rotaractors. So that again, and I see that many of you all are members that have been 8 and 9 years, some becoming a member now, just recently, even newer. It is wonderful to know that you are helping us to grow and get this number achievable.
I have a question for Linda and I guess maybe Bruce because Mike's not on. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
So, are our district membership numbers going down? I'm glad that we're hearing that businesses don't sponsor like they used to because we're seeing that in Sioux City. But where are we with the district? Are we holding or are we going down just a little?
I think, well, we were down 7 members last year, Linda. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, Janet, because at the international conference this year in Taipei, one of the breakout sessions I went to was kind of talking about that very thing of how things used to be, if you will. And I need to talk with my club president yet, but one of the tasks I put on myself is I want to go out to some of these law firms and CPA firms, et cetera, and say, this is a way that your younger potential partners used to get their name out into the world and get clients, et cetera, and they need to start doing that again. And I'm going to hit on some of these companies and see if we can pick up some corporate memberships or even individual ones. So But I think that's a great comment, Janet.
And I'd like to add to that, one or two of our bigger clubs in the district really were taking care of the development side of their members by having professional leadership events, etc., taking place. And we're not really looking at the true value of Rotary and what else it brought to the table for all those members. And just recently, and I think it's due to some of the DG line that's coming into play. They have started introducing some of the other aspects of Rotary into those members. And all of a sudden, we're seeing more interest of those members, and those members actually doing more and providing more and actually increasing their donations to the foundation, as well as bringing even more members into the team. So, and that is the larger clubs. I myself am in one of the clubs that's that middle size, smaller middle size in the 25 to 35 range, and where you have older members, and we have a few interested younger members coming, and we're trying to determine how to do a good mentoring and turn over to the younger members and bringing more of them in, and then really doing a large focus on the younger Interact, Rotaract programs that we are in the face of possibly a lot of the parents. And so to get them on board while we are in their children's eyes, but getting the parents on board. So we have a double whammy, hopefully, there to create some more excitement. And we're doing it through the Peace Poll, which, by the way, Kim Earhood was very helpful in helping Madison get a Peace Poll going. So,
All right, thanks. Okay.
Mhm. Great question, Janet.
are there other questions? Nancy, do you? You may be on mute. Okay.
One thing that I would have, I'll have Kim talk about it, but we've started a care team in our club that I think will produce some good results, if you will, of the care of our members. So, Kim, if you want to mention how that's
Well,
going.
and what we found last year was that suddenly we realized that a particular member hadn't been coming. You know, we have a club of nearly 90 people now, and so we weren't keeping track of them. And we found out that she wasn't coming because she'd been sick and that her family had been undergoing some financial issues. And, you know, nobody was aware of that. And it happened with another member, and we thought we need to do something. We need to find a way to keep our family because our club is growing. And so we started a care team this year. And, you know, we're asking people to let us know, is there a member that you know of who's going through a health problem or, you know, a death in the family? We've had a couple who have lost their dogs, and that's a big deal, you know. They're our family too. And so we've just, you know, kind of been sending cards, we've been reaching out, sending flowers, and we've actually now put the care team in our club budget so that we have some money to do those sorts of things. But we're hoping that that will be helpful.
You know,
Thank you for doing that.
one last thing I would mention as far as retaining your members, I really felt strongly about this in my years as district governor that we need to ask our new members what they want to get out of being a member of Rotary.
Yes.
And I think that that's very important. You know, it should be on the membership application or when they have their orientation, but to ask that question to find out, because the easiest way to keep them engaged is to give them what they're asking for. But if we don't know what it is, it's kind of hard to give it to them. So,
That's a very key thing, Bruce, when we talk about value. because if we haven't done a survey, and I always encourage surveys of your members, and even the survey on those that are leaving. Why are you leaving? Because sometimes it's very simple, and sometimes it's complex, but at least you have an answer.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, I need to
This
leave.
is
I have another Zoom meeting to get on. So thank you,
Thank you. Thank
Demetress.
you. All
okay.
right. Bless you. Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering if you've seen any problems with clubs if they do try to expand and do something different, does it cause problems within the core club? For example, we're a noon meeting club, but we know that that doesn't work for a lot of people nowadays. So we've talked about doing, a Thursday evening once a month or doing more of a group that only meets to do little service projects. And
Right.
one of our concerns is we don't want everybody to skip out of the main club to go to one of these other uh, parts of the club, so to speak. Uh,
Yes.
can you address that at all?
Yes, I'd love to. And I will be brief because I know our time is limited. So, one of the greatest things that has occurred in the last couple of years is a little thing called the Service Companion Club. The
Hmm.
Service Companion Club is a club that is not like a satellite. Satellites oftentimes want to grow large enough and branch off and start their own. A Service Companion Club is really an attribute to the existing club. But let's say it's teachers and they cannot get off at noon every single Thursday. But that service companion is only a requirement of 9 members. Those 9 members can initiate a service companion, and maybe the only thing they do is come out 2 times a month for just service. You charge them at a minimal fee. They still are part of your membership, enough that will cover the cost of course, your district and your Rotary International dues. And they are an added group of people that will be participating in your socials and or just service. It has been a tremendous sale. It has grown and it has advanced. Now you said also, so oftentimes the other club members, they may say, well, why is Bobby getting to come and he doesn't have to pay but $150 a year and I'm paying 350. Well, you're getting the full deal value and you present it that way and you help them to understand this is how we grow Rotary, but we're looking like our community and making those individuals who don't have the opportunity to come to our daytime or traditional morning meeting because of their job roles. So it has been extremely well received, and I've seen a lot of clubs grow. And the other one is the satellite itself. The satellite might be an evening club that is in addition to your current club. I've seen that also through Rotaract. You can start a Rotaract club, and Rotaract does not have to be the college-aged individual. It could be started by just something as simple of having an evening, nighttime club. It's still a part of your membership, but they are a Rotaract. Now, they won't help us in our 1.25 million, but they will help us in our 125,000.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
That is very good. Good to know. And could you possibly, Demetress, just tell us a little bit about your personal club that you belong to?
Yes,
So many times, you can feel the bigness elsewhere, but when you really pull back and look at your own club, uh, getting the inertia going, is there anything special you can tell us about your own club?
Yes, I can tell you a couple of things. I was president of the club twice, in 2006 and 2015. I have loved the club since I joined back in 1998. It was a small, medium-sized club, as you stated, about 36. It got down to 17. And I will say that sometimes club is about leadership. How often do you find that clubs that are declining, it is something that is significant about leadership? And one of the things that became a challenge for me is we had a husband and a wife that rotated about 5 times in presidential role. They did not seek to get other members involved and engaged in things like a chair for membership, a chair position for public image, a chair position for foundation. And when you don't have those things, it will slowly but surely become the personality of the leader and not the personality of the members. And so that has been something that I've seen. And now we have a new club president that was from Chicago and was part of the Chicago club there. And she is back. She's already brought in new members. She's changed the feel of the club and made it much more diverse. And she's listening to her members. So that is always extremely important. We were meeting at a wonderful local club. It was a country club. We had golf outside the door, so there were people that were coming in all the time, and we engaged in new members. And today we're meeting at a library. Well, libraries are notorious for what? Being quiet. So where is that? Is it fun? And so that has been the life of my club. And I have been in that club, like I said, for 35 plus years. But what I've also started to think is what and how do I create a culture that will grow for other people to be a part? We have 2 clubs here in our community, and that club that I'm in chartered from a club that was at one time 250 members that is now down to 35.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any other closing comments from anyone? If not, hearing none, our next meeting is going to be September 10th, and there will be minutes coming out from this meeting, but thank you so much for being on this call.
Thank you.
To all people here, and Demetress, we really appreciate you spending time with us.
Yes.
And I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy the video, for sure.
Well, thank you again. Bless you all.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Demetress.
Call me anytime. All right. All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.